Good evening. Welcome to our candidate forum on behalf of the League of Women Voters of New Rochelle, even though this is not New Rochelle here. I'm Alice Tenney, and I will be tonight's moderator for each of the two forums. Please note that I am not a voter in the district, as the League requires, so I am nonpartisan in these contests. Each of tonight's forums will follow the League's traditional format, beginning with an opening statement from each candidate, followed by a question and answer period, and finishing up with closing statements from each candidate. The order of the candidates' opening statements has been determined by lot. The reverse order will be used for closing statements. Opening and closing statements are not to exceed 1.5 minutes. Responses to questions will be limited to 1 minute. Note that our timekeeper will be visible to the candidates and will alert the panel when 30 seconds of response time are remaining, and then again when it's time to stop. Candidates will be able to finish any sentences that they have started. Candidates are allowed 2 rebuttals each over the course of the evening. Rebuttal time will be 30 seconds, and there will be no responses to rebuttals. However, after closing statements, I reserve the right to grant a further rebuttal if it is deemed necessary. Other rules. The candidates will not interrupt each other or the moderator during the forum. As moderator, I reserve the right to pause or, if necessary, halt the proceedings to enforce the ground rules and format. Please note that the candidates have not been provided with any of the questions ahead of time. Finally, except for time limits, the only restriction on candidate statements and answers is respect and civility. I should also note that all of the questions were submitted online prior to this evening, and I had some discretion as to which questions I plan to ask. We're going to start with opening statements, and Scooter Scott was chosen by lot to go first.
Good evening to everyone. My thanks to the League of Women Voters for our debate tonight, and I would like to thank my wife and children for their unwavering support. My opponent, our current mayor of Tuckahoe, and most importantly, the residents of this village for the honor of running hopefully to be the next mayor of Tuckahoe. It's humbling to be in this position. I've made my living for over 26 years as a member of the International Alliance of Theater and Stage Employees, Local Number 1. I'm a blue-collar guy with the traditional values of faith, family, and community service. I want our local government to respect all our residents, facilitate quality of life, create a healthy business environment with low taxes, and keep us safe. And I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of those time-honored values and principles so that our village will not just survive, but thrive. I've watched the village board, and my greatest disappointment has been seeing the mayor deepen divides in our community instead of bridging them. We have real challenges that we face as a village. Record inflation has stripped us of wealth. Drainage issues threaten our home. Traffic congestion is increasing. Our non-tax revenue has barely increased in the last 4 years, placing a greater burden on our taxpayers. Our downtown business district is not what it should be or could be, and crime is on the rise in Westchester despite what you may have heard. We need outreach programs for our youth to keep them safe and foster productive life habits. If I'm elected your mayor, I will bring the community together to tap the power of our diverse backgrounds and life experiences to generate strategies we need to overcome whatever we face, and thank you.
Thank you very much. And O'Meara Andino.
When I first ran for village trustee in 2018, I envisioned a place where everyone felt seen and heard. I sought to inspire those young and old to become partners with their government and to be empowered to become stewards of their own community. I worked to encourage a bipartisan approach to governing so that the best and the brightest could contribute to making Tuckahoe the wonderful place we have all come to call home, regardless of your party affiliation. And I believe we've achieved that. My team and I have embraced those who've lived here for decades and newcomers alike, and I'm grateful to the many who welcomed me with open arms. When I ran for the office of mayor, I listened to the concerns of the community who said that Things like getting roads paved, fixing the traffic light that's become the bane of the existence of many, as well as protecting our rich history, were priorities for many. I promised to address what was in my power to, and that's why our campaign slogan stands as promises made, promises kept. We're taking care of our infrastructure as well as our village employees and the residents, all while being ever mindful of our fiscal responsibility of making sure that Tuckahoe is in a strong financial position long after I'm gone. Fiscal stewardship, prudence, and discipline are not just campaign slogans for me, it's what I live. You can't get all that you set out to accomplish completed in 2 years, and so I'm asking for your vote so that I can continue the momentum to putting Tuckahoe first.
Thank you to both of our candidates. Our first question, and we will start with Scooter. What professional experience or skills do you have that make you a good candidate for mayor?
Thank you for that question. And I have a broad swath of life experiences and professional experiences that I bring to the table. I have over 40 years in the entertainment industry, specializing in audio, but problem solving, logistics, personnel management. I've 5 years as the shop steward where I work at Carnegie Hall. And there we just finished a contract negotiation with a payroll of a sizable amount. I was indoctrinated into leadership early on because of my experience in Naval High School. I have an NJROTC commission as a lieutenant. And then finally I graduated from the Women's Enterprise Development Center with a certificate in business development. It's for entrepreneurs who are looking to start businesses, which I plan to do at the end of my career. But most importantly, it's a matter of recognizing that the mayor is more of a coach than a quarterback. We have a village administrator who's actually throwing the ball downfield.
Thank you very much. Same question, Amira.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. What professional experience or skills do you have that make you a good candidate for mayor?
So I am the CEO for a not-for-profit with an operating budget of $64 million. I work with people with developmental disabilities, and part of my job involves managing a budget that's more than 4 times the size of our current village budget. I also work with different resource organizations in the communities that I brought into Tuckahoe to be able to bridge gaps when other government officials weren't able to help us, like when we were dealing with COVID. I was able to approach the healthcare professionals like pharmacies to come in and bring COVID testing and COVID vaccines. And all of that experience, being able to tap into the community and bridge government and private business, has helped me in my role.
Thank you very much. Question 2, and we'll start with Elmira.
Mm-hmm.
What specific things have you done, or what projects have you undertaken within the village of Tuckahoe in the last 5 years that best demonstrate why you're the best candidate for this role?
So in the time that I became trustee in 2018, but since I've become mayor, we have taken care of infrastructure projects in an unprecedented amount. So we've paved 30% of our roads. We're dealing with light infrastructure that many people whose doors I've knocked on have complained. We're taking care of our sewer infrastructure. We've passed legislation to safeguard our history in the village. So there's legislation we've passed, there's infrastructure, and we've built community. So there are many people now who are engaged on our boards, bipartisan groups, and people who are of different party affiliations. So we're building community, we're taking care of our infrastructure, and we are passing legislation for the future of the village.
Thank you. Scooter, same question. I'll repeat it. What specific things have you done, or what projects have you undertaken within the village of Tuckahoe in the last 5 years that best demonstrate why you are the best candidate for this role?
Well, since I'm not in government office, those opportunities have been restricted to things like supporting the community with the Snow Angels program, being a member of one of the founding or initial members of the PTA's CRSE, which is a culturally responsible sustaining education program where we began to look at ways of changing the education or implementing the state's program. But those things are what you can do as a solid citizen. One of the things that comes to mind, as the mayor points out, I mean, I've read the letter about all the things that have been done, but that's the basic bones of being in government. Paving roads, taking care of infrastructure, updating bathrooms, those are normal things. The question is, what is our mayor doing above and beyond the call of duty?
Thank you very much. Next question. We start with Scooter. Why are you running for the office of mayor in Tuckahoe?
I'm very glad you asked that question. One of the things, as I said earlier, was that has concerned me is even though the mayor likes to say that she's been inclusive, she hasn't. I don't like division. We can't come together to fix the problems if she puts down residents, prominent businessmen because of their politics. This is not how we build, build community. But furthermore, I think we need to look at the things that are going to make the village operate in a productive fashion. The mayor likes to talk about her nonprofit background. The problem is, as a village, we need to look at ways to generate revenue. Nonprofits go to government and donors to get their money, which is mirrored in the fact that we've raised the tax cap, and you're basically going to the citizens to generate revenue instead of creating revenue streams by developing businesses, creating an atmosphere where businesses can thrive.
Thank you.
May I have a rebuttal there?
Well, you haven't answered the question.
Okay.
Before you rebut, how about answering why you are running for the office of mayor in Tuckahoe?
So I'm running for the office of mayor because I think that we have already started a momentum to getting things done. So my opponent says that the basics are paving the roads and dealing with infrastructure, but the infrastructure has eroded so poorly that we can barely manage the village as is. So it's important that we keep up our house. And if you don't keep up your house, that's the foundation of everything. So you have to start there. So I think that we have started to take care of the things that matter, like our roads, like our infrastructure, like our sewer system, and we've also built community. So I want to continue in that momentum, and getting things done don't just take 2 years.
Very much. Next question, we'll start with Omira. Fiscal responsibility is a major focus of this campaign. Please tell us how you plan to accomplish this.
So we have already been fiscally responsible. You don't get a AA plus rating by not being fiscally responsible. And my opponent and his ticket have put out language that says that we have been fiscally undisciplined. I have never seen an 800 credit score and a person being called fiscally undisciplined. If you have a AA plus rating, which is the highest rating that this village has ever had in 100 years, that to me speaks to fiscal discipline, fiscal prudence, making sure that we are a viable village for years to come. And my goal is to leave the village in a with financial strength long after I'm gone.
Thank you. Scooter, fiscal responsibility is a major focus of this campaign. Please tell us how you plan to accomplish this.
By generating the revenue and increasing the financial base from which we can draw to address the issues that we have to face. My opponent likes to point out the AA plus bond rating, but that's basically a credit rating, right? That means we're talking about borrowing. A AA plus bond rating basically says that you can borrow money and pay it back. And where's that money coming from? The taxpayers. She's not generating revenue because they've blown through the tax cap this year. In addition, when you have a nonprofit mindset, you neglect the things that generate wealth within the community. When you're relying on the federal government to take care of things like the traffic sensors, when you're relying on funds to generate revenue, it's not a sustainable model. We need to create a thriving business community. Look at Scarsdale. Look at Bronxville. They are our neighbors with much more expensive real estate, and they have thriving business communities.
So is there an opportunity to rebut there? So my opponent says that that I am not generating different revenue streams. Since I became mayor, we've brought in more than $200,000 in filming. Filming was something that I initiated for Tuckahoe to making us a film-friendly village. Filming has happened here before, but not in a very targeted and directed way that we have now. Bringing in grants to municipalities is part of a mayor's job. And if my opponent thinks that that's not his job, he's mistaken. We have brought in more than $2 million in grants for the village.
Moving along, first to Scooter. How can we continue to fund pensions and insurance for village employees and maintain a balanced budget? Which programs would you be willing to cut, and which would you consider increasing?
Well, here we go. Back to generating revenue through business. I'd also, as far as cutting, get rid of the parking meter increase, which was 50%, because again, that affects businesses' ability to serve their customers. It discourages people from coming down. We've also lost, at the same time that this administration has raised the parking meters, they have diminished the supply of parking by putting in, through grants, electrical charging stations. I commute in and out of the train station often. I rarely see the occasional Tesla. I mean, it's nice, but I'd like to see a study that shows that it's actually beneficial. I'd like to know how many residents are actually benefiting for it. I mean, are we trying to make Tuckahoe a parking destination or a business destination? What we need to do to fund pension is create revenue that allows us to take care of those who have served this village. I am a labor man. I am all for doing that. I just finished a contract negotiation where we did the same at my job.
Thank you very much. Myra, I'll repeat the question. How can we continue to fund pensions and insurance for village employees, and maintain a balanced budget? Which programs would you be willing to cut, and which would you consider increasing?
So our health insurance went up by 16% last year. We had to make some decisions. And as mayor, when you're in a municipality, taxes pays for your services. In addition to the taxes, I have brought in revenue that I've mentioned with filming and with grants to the community. We are now looking at how we can find new insurance policies to help us, but we also are working on making sure that our DPW, our police departments, all have contracts that take care of the people who provide us with services. So my opponent is touting that he's going to bring in new revenue streams, but he has yet to mention one.
Thank you. Next question, first to Elmira. What do you plan to accomplish in your first 30 and/or 90 days in office?
So it's hard to accomplish anything in 30 days, but I would say that my first priority would be the Comprehensive Plan Committee. I'm glad that my opponent mentioned communities like Bronxville and how they're thriving. Bronxville had a comprehensive plan which helped guide them in their vision and their goals for the future of the village. It includes a thorough analysis of land development trends and issues that are important to the community, resources and public needs for transportation, recreation, and housing. Having a comprehensive plan is going to ensure that there's forethought and that planning precedes zoning amendments. So we don't just bring businesses in, you plan for that to make sure that what comes in is something that's going to be viable over time and that we have a thriving community.
Scooter, what do you plan to accomplish in your first 30 and/or 90 days in office?
I really appreciate that one. The first thing I would like to do is address the Union Street Park. It was last renovated about 15 years ago, And I remember board meetings before I ran for trustee over 2 years ago, or no, about 2 years, no, over 2 years ago, where it had been brought up. It has not been addressed. I would get rid of the parking meter increase. I'd bring the veterans banners, the hometown heroes banners back. And unlike my opponent, I disagree with the outsourcing of the master plan. She campaigned on this over 2 years ago, saying that it was a very important thing. They just put the bids out about 2 weeks ago, and they'll be finalized and ready just before the election. For something that was supposed to be such a big priority, why did it take so long?
Thank you.
So may I rebut my second rebuttal? So it takes it. You don't just do things haphazardly. We have a list of things that we needed to accomplish, and that was one of the things. And while it's important, paving our streets was a greater priority. Taking care of our traffic light and our sewer infrastructure was a greater priority. So part of what the mayor's job is to prioritize the goals. And the comprehensive plan is very important, but we had a process. We had to find people who that we thought would be a good fit for the committee, and then also find a consultant that would help guide us to that. So that's the reason.
Next question. Start with Scooter. What do you see as the mayor's primary role, and what do you think is the most important skill for a mayor to have?
Mayor's primary role is visionary advocate, someone who's supposed to create a vision and make it plain so that the residents of the village can come together and develop that vision. And the second thing is to advocate for all of the residents in the village. Regardless of whether you agree with them, you should listen to understand, not to respond. But another thing that I think needs to happen is that we need to, as mayors, be good monitors and stewards. I want to go back to that master plan because one of the things that concerns me is the outsourcing of it. We have local talent, we have local ability, we can save money and invest that money in things like drainage, things like sidewalk repair, things that affect the quality of life. We have to get back to streamlining our business codes as well.
Thank you very much. Myra, what do you see as the mayor's primary role, and what do you think is the most important skill for a mayor to have?
So I think that the mayor's primary role would be first and foremost to ensure prudence and stewardship over taxpayer dollars. We also should be accessing resources at all levels of government. My opponent stated that he felt that I was relying too much on government to help the municipalities. That's what government is there for, at all levels, to provide us with funding when it's needed. And so part of our job is to advocate so that we get our fair share here in Tuckahoe, and I have done that. I also think it's important for the village mayor to do the will of the people. And we've done that. We've put a referendum before the village, and that was the most bipartisan thing that's happened. 3-1 voters voted to move elections to November, yet my opponent and his ticket put out literature that said that we moved the election, and it doesn't work that way. So it either says to me that he doesn't understand how it works, or he's deliberately misleading the community.
May I respond to that?
You may.
Number one, there is no literature on this campaign that has said anything of the sort around that with my name on it, number one. Number two, fiscal responsibility has not been the forte of this administration when you're blowing through the property tax cap. Yes. Is that a stop? I'm sorry. Thank you.
That's a start. Okay. Next question. Omira, answer first, please. What can your administration do about the traffic on Main Street? And what can you do about flooding?
So we have already begun the work of dealing with our traffic light infrastructure, which is a big component to traffic flow. There are 4 specific lights that we had to deal with. The one on Main Street at Depot Square, one on Columbus and Fisher, Marbledale and Fisher, and on Fairview and Main Street. The ones that we have upgraded that we could afford, we did, and we already could see and feel the difference. The big monster on Main Street, we can't afford. That's a $700,000 project. And so when my opponent speaks of how we blew the tax cap, we're talking about an increase of about $12 a month per resident. I have not seen him at a board meeting when we had our public hearings to weigh in and give feedback, and maybe he had some ideas that would have helped the village. If his interest really is for the betterment of the community, he would have been at those sessions providing feedback to the community instead of sitting back and waiting to have a gotcha moment.
Thank you. Scooter, what can your administration do about the traffic on Main Street? And what can you do about flooding?
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank the police department for all the work they've done researching and generating what was necessary to install the traffic sensors. And yes, we do need federal assistance, but the question is how much, because those federal dollars, those state dollars, those are still tax dollars coming out of the pockets of each and every one sitting here and sitting in the village. It's not free. Just because it's not a village tax doesn't mean that if we increase our demand, that the state's not going to raise its taxes. As far as flooding, there are two types of things that we have to address: runoff and the water table. Runoff requires increasing capacity, changing pumps, increasing pipe diameter. Lowering the water table is something that I think we can do by looking at dredging to increase flow through the Bronx River. We can look at planting water-hungry vegetation around the river and homes to do so.
Last question. Scooter first. If you could change one thing about Tuckahoe, what would it be?
That's a really good question. When it comes to changing it, I love this village the way it is. Moving it in a direction that I think will increase what it already offers, that's what I'd like to do. And I'd like to do that by, again, getting rid of divided government, getting it back to be a community where people say hi to each other. But in addition to that, I also want it to be a place where we have a thriving business community, where we have a culture of dependency, so that this village has the ability to address things without depending on as much federal and state assistance as we currently do. I'd also like to address our youth programs by developing, by putting them together with our retired community, because everyone benefits from that, and developing LLCs to give them life skills like business, and to, in general, utilize the community center to upgrade and improve their lives.
Thank you. Elmira, if you could change one thing about Tuckahoe, what would it be?
So this is something that we've been talking about as a board, and I've been thinking about. There are a couple of things that we know we still need some work to be done. We are doing a deeper dive to ensure that we have the most efficient and effective department. So we're taking a look at our processes to make sure that we are as efficient as we can be and as nimble. I think we also need to become more technologically savvy. So we're working on making sure that we get our taxes online and that we improve our marketing, because Tuckahoe is a wonderful place for people to come to work, live, and play. And those are some areas that we know that we need to work on.
Very much. So we've reached the end of the question session for this evening. We'll now move to closing statements, and just reminding the candidates that you're each allowed 1.5 minutes for your closing statement, and we will start with Elmira.
There's a stark contrast between my opponent and me. I show up when it counts. My opponent and his ticket have only appeared during campaigns. I demonstrated leadership during a 100-year pandemic, while my opponent and his ticket sat by and criticized the invaluable work that my team and I did to save lives. I led us to the highest credit score to the village has ever had. My opponent and his ticket accused me of being fiscally undisciplined. I got 30% of our roads paved, fixed traffic lights and sewer infrastructure within 2 years of being in office, while my opponent and his ticket spent time spreading lies about my record. My administration has brought in more than $2 million in grants, money, while my opponent and his ticket criticized my efforts for working with legislators at all levels of government to bring the money that Tuckahoe deserves. My team and I are doing the work, while my opponent and his ticket are doing a lot of talking. I stand on my record, Tuckahoe, and I'm asking that you make your voice heard loud and clear, that you want action and results, not rhetoric and gaslighting. On November 7th, vote for me, Omaira Andino, for mayor, and my colleagues Darrell Taylor and Josh Cacchione for trustees. You can find us on the bipartisan line because we are bipartisan.
Closing statement from Scooter, please.
Hopefully our discussion tonight has given you insight into my vision for Tuckahoe, my heart, and the quality of character I will bring to the Village Hall. If elected on November 7th, there is much that I want to accomplish, and I promise you that everyone will have a seat at the table. The current administration campaigned on being fiscally responsible and transparent. Since that time, they've blown through the tax cap and increased parking meters, affecting businesses and our quality of life. And when it comes to transparency, they get a failing grade. They appointed 2 trustees without so much as a conversation or input from the community. They created a job position just recently without input from the community. They just put out the bid for the master plan, again, without putting it up in front of the people for a review, with a generally accepted board vote. And perhaps the most egregious of all of these was the removal of the Hometown Heroes banner based on a decision made behind closed doors with 0 public input and in violation of the Sunshine Laws. If I'm elected on November 7th, you will once again have transparent government. You will be part of the conversation, and together we will navigate through these challenging times. I respectfully ask for your vote on November 7th, and please also support my running mates Danny Lang and Claudia DeMeo Francis. Thank you, and God bless all of you.
I'll conclude this debate, or forum, by thanking our candidates and our audience. A reminder that this forum has been recorded and will be available to you on your sponsoring league's website until Election Day, which is November 7th. I also want to remind you of the unique and important role played by the League of Women Voters here in the community and across the country. The League works to register voters, educate them on issues of the day, and to protect their right to vote. Your local league is made up of volunteers who devote their time and energy. Your participation and assistance are always welcome. Then last, early voting takes place from starting on Saturday, this coming Saturday, October 28th, through Sunday, November 5th. Early voting polling places locations can be found on the Westchester Board of Elections website. On Election Day, November 7th, you can vote only at your assigned polling location. To confirm your voting location, you can visit vote411.org or the New York State Board of Elections website to use their voter lookup service. You can also find a postcard up front that will give you the same information. Note that democracy is not a spectator sport, so please get out there and vote. Thank you and have a wonderful evening. Everybody, and welcome League of Women Voters of New Rochelle. I'm Alice Tenney, and I will be tonight's moderator for the forum. Please note that I am not a voter in this district, as the League requires. so I'm completely nonpartisan in this contest. Tonight's forum will follow the League's traditional format, beginning with an opening statement from each candidate, followed by a question and answer period, and finishing up with closing statements from each candidate. The order of the candidates' opening statements has been determined by lot. The reverse order will be used for closing statements. Opening and closing statements are not to exceed 1.5 minutes. Responses to questions will be limited to 1 minute. Note that our timekeeper will be visible to the candidates and will alert the panel when 30 seconds of response time are remaining, and then again when it's time to stop. Candidates will be able to finish any sentences that they've started. The candidates are allowed 2 rebuttals each over the course of the evening. Rebuttal time will be 30 seconds, and there will be no responses to rebuttals. However, after closing statements, I reserve the right to grant a further rebuttal if it is deemed necessary. Other rules include that the candidates will not interrupt each other or the moderator during the forum, and as moderator, I reserve the right to pause or, if necessary, halt the proceedings to enforce the ground rules and format. Please note that the candidates have not been provided with any of the questions ahead of time. And then finally, except for time limits, the only restriction on candidate statements and answers is respect and civility. I should note also that all of tonight's questions were submitted online prior to this forum. So, question number 1, and we will start with Darrell Taylor. What attributes do you bring to the position of village
Opening statement.
trustee? I'm sorry? Oh, I thought opening statement. The second forum, I apologize.
No problem, no problem.
Just rushing ahead. In any event, we'll start with the opening statements. Again, apologies, with Darrell Taylor going first.
Okay, good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for running this forum for us tonight. I am running for village trustee because I picked up the mantle that my mother, Alma Lee Taylor, has laid down. She was very active in this village for many years and taught me that a life of service to others is not just what we do, it's who we are. I was born and raised in Tuckahoe, and I have spent most of my life giving back. I have been a volunteer to the Eastchester Community Action Program for over 40 years, and my mother was one of the founding members to start the Eastchester Community Action Program. I've been on the ECAP board for 12 years. I have coached hundreds of kids in youth sports, which is football, basketball, and baseball. And if you combine the years together, it's over 25 years. I was one of the founding members, along with my brother John Gunther in the back, of a organization called Saving Our Sons and Daughters, a mentoring program helping keeping our kids safe and informed about difficult challenges in life. And I spent most of my life in the village of Tuckahoe doing what makes me happy and what brings me joy, and that is effective positive change in the life of others.
Thank you very much. Joshua, your opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you, League of Women Voters. Thank you for everyone who came out here and everybody who's watching on TV. Whether it was leading troops as a non-commissioned officer in the United States Army, or in my current role at Westchester Community College, or as a dad, one rule that has remained constant for me is that leaders show up. Look at this platform tonight. Look at the audience. All of us had other things that we could be doing, other responsibilities that we could be taking care of, but we didn't. We showed up, just like we've been showing up for Tuckahoe over the last months and the last years. If a candidate for public office doesn't have it in them to answer questions from neighbors and voters, how can that candidate be trusted to lead when there's a crisis? Now, I'm a flawed man. You can ask my wife. She's got a laundry list. She'll give it to you upon request. But one thing that's certain is I show up. For over a decade, I've done that at Westchester Community College. As a non-commissioned officer, I did that in deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq. And that's something that I'll keep doing for Tuckahoe, like I did before I was a trustee and like I do now as a trustee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we can move on to the first question, and again, my apologies. I guess I'm
No problem.
eager to have dinner, but
You and me both.
first question, and we will start with Daryl. What attributes do you bring to the position of village trustee?
Similar to what Trustee Gassion just said, it's showing up. It's keeping your word. I've been battling with bronchitis for over 2 weeks, and I fought and did everything I could to be here tonight because I gave you my word I would be here. That's number one. Number two is caring about other people. Individuals with selfish spirits only think about themselves and what's best for them. I'm somebody who spent a lifetime lifting up other people. I'm also a hard worker. Anybody who has ever been around me, anybody who has ever hired me, knows that I work as hard as I can. I do not stop until the job is done. And my background as a law enforcement officer in corrections had the training I had in the years, 18 years experience, has given me a level head. I do not get too excited. I do not get upset. I don't pound on this desk when things are said to me that I don't agree with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Daryl, what attributes do you bring to the
Josh.
position of, oh,
Josh.
sorry, Joshua. Oh, there I go again. Which
Two
attributes
handsome fellas, it's okay.
can I say?
I do want to say first to what Trustee Taylor said. Trustee Taylor has been fantastic as a mentor on this board. So have the other trustees, the mayor, the deputy mayor, and the other trustees. And being able to follow in those examples and seeing the different attributes that they all bring. You have folks that work in corporate America. You have folks that work in education, correction, military, nonprofit. All of these, this team. I'm actually reading a Team of Rivals right now by but anyway, it's a fantastic group of folks that we have here because we bring so much to this table. Bring the compassion, the caring, the knowledge, and the willingness to do the work. Thanks.
Thank you. This time I wrote down everybody's name. So, next question, and we will start with Joshua. Why are you running for this position?
Yeah, I'm disappointed to see our opponents, folks, friends, they all left. I had been asked to run for this position by multiple parties, and it was very flattering. It was very nice to be wanted. We all want to be wanted. But I was convinced that I could do more good for the village in this position. And I have seen how that is true. I have seen how we're able and willing to give back, how we're able to get resources from the state and federal level to really put it to work here in our village. And I've appreciated that opportunity, and I look forward to continuing to do that.
Thank you. Daryl, why are you running for this position?
I'm running. First of all, I care deeply about this village of Tuckahoe. I've spent my lifetime here. I've invested in this community, and I'm running for a second term because, similar to the first term, with the previous administration, there was a direction that they were taking this village in that wasn't feasible for me or the residents of this village. There was a lot of outside rhetoric that was dividing this village like it was done nationally, and I thought it was very important for me to step up to the plate and change the direction that Tuckahoe was going in. And lastly, I am committed to making sure that not only the village, but the village board, but the government of this village and the residents, things are being done the right way and for the right reasons.
Can I have a rebuttal?
Sure.
Thank you. So one of the things that I want to emphasize that Trustee Taylor just said is that with this current board in place, with Mayor Andino, with Trustee Engelbert, with the Deputy Mayor Kara Cronin, and with us on the board, we are not going to take our direction from Eastchester. Eastchester will not be sending down the things that they want done here. We think for ourselves. We're from Tuckahoe.
That's all I got. Okay, next question. We'll start with Daryl. What can the village do in terms of providing affordable housing for our community?
So, affordable housing is a very difficult topic for this village. There is not a lot of land left in the village to actually build affordable housing. I know we did pass some legislation that when new structures are built, that a certain percentage, I think 10%, would be for affordable housing.
Thank
That's
you.
it.
Joshua, what can the village do in terms of providing affordable housing for our community?
Sure. I think we're both in agreement here that more affordable housing throughout Westchester County and here in Tuckahoe is something that's desperately needed. But there's limited space. But one of the things that we did do is that we made sure that any new structures that are built do have spaces for affordable housing. I would ask anybody to take a look at the social media pages of our opponents and see how much they've complained about affordable housing opportunities here while we support them. Thanks.
Thank you. Moving on, first for Joshua. In what ways, as trustee or not, have you contributed to the village in the past?
Yeah, thank you. So in my time as trustee, it doesn't stop. It's there are always really wonderful opportunities to be involved in anything, you know, and we're always looking for more volunteers. So if you're watching this and you want to be involved, please come on down and get involved. But even before that, you know, I have worked in the veterans community since 2004. Here in the county, I was appointed by State Senator Shelley Mayer to lead District 37's Veterans Advisory Council. I also work with other nonprofit organizations to help students kind of stay in college, which is my day job, to help them with resource insecurity for ensure that they're not hungry or homeless.
Thank you very much. Daryl, in what ways, as trustee or not, have you contributed to the village in the past?
Well, working with ECAP, like I said, I've been a volunteer for over 40 years. And ECAP has done a tremendous job over the years with their food pantry, with their summer jobs. Also, they have the after-school program. And also, over the years, I have been involved with working with youth and assisting them on getting jobs, even at the for the town of Eastchester, and also just investing in the youth in this community. The youth in this community is very important, and all of the years that I spent mentoring, coaching the youth, and just giving them a positive figure to see, a male figure that deeply cares about them and believes in this, not only what I'm doing, but believes in the way of life of Tuckahoe.
Thank you very much. Moving on, Daryl first. What do you see as the role of trustee in terms of working with the mayor?
Well, I think one of the most important things to do is to make sure that we have a budget that is comprehensive, a budget that we will be able to maintain the village, because when you do a budget, you're doing it for a year. And you have to include all your departments, your DPW, the police department, and all of the village employees, and working on their contracts. Sometimes the contracts come up in the same year. So, and then also assisting the mayor and all of the other trustees with all of the initiatives and collaborate them with the plan that we have moving forward.
Thank you. Joshua, what do you see as the role of trustee in terms of working with the mayor?
Sure, thank you. First, I need to say that we need to re-elect the mayor, so make sure that you're voting for her on the bipartisan line. But also that our current mayor is fantastic in creating a space that gives us the opportunity to feel each other out, to disagree, to kind of toss out ideas in a space that you know, it's really unique to the setup that we have now. So you're always working with the mayor in every decision that's made. Like Trustee Taylor said, whether that's the budget, whether that's programming, whether that's liaison roles, So it's very important to have that relationship and to be able to sustain that with the mayor.
Thank you. Next question, first to Joshua. What do you see as the primary job of a trustee other than regarding the mayor?
Sure. The primary job of the trustee is to be present, unlike our opponents who are not present here tonight, and the other party who decided, when they lost the election last time, that they didn't want to be present then either. So first and foremost, you need to be present. Secondly, you got to do more listening than talking. I learned so much in my time here on the board, and you're able to fix and address certain things immediately, and other things take a lot more time, and there's some growing pains and some things that you learn on the job. But it's been a great experience, but being present is the most important factor in my opinion.
Thank you very much. Daryl, what do you see as the primary job of a trustee other than regarding the mayor?
I agree with Trustee Gassion. Being present is very important. Previous one of our opponents who was elected and was on the board with us, he kind of tapped out halfway through his first year. He stopped showing up for our work sessions. I guess him being the only Republican on the board didn't sit well with him. But if you take this office, you take it serious, you show up, you govern, and then you support the events. Our opponents in the past, they talk so much about back blue and they love the police. And since they lost the last election, they haven't been present to any of the police events. And they have about 7 events a year. We, along with our contract, has proven that we support the police, and we have been present at all of the events, not just the police events.
Thank you. Next question going to Daryl first. Trustees can serve as liaisons to various community groups. Do you think this is an important role? Why? Do you have any experience reaching out to and working with local community organizations?
Okay, so yeah, being a liaison is definitely important. I am the liaison to the Tuckahoe Housing Authority. I am the liaison to the Eastchester Community Action Program, and I was just appointed to the chamber. Just appointed to the chamber. So, in my time for liaison for the Housing Authority, I was able to empower the tenants and giving them the information they need, the assistance they need when issues come up and they need, whether it be lawyers to help them when they go to court or different issues that come up. The ECAP, I've been working with them for years. I'm still assisting them, giving the information, just giving the reports of all of the things that they're doing. And the chamber, even though I just started with the chamber, it is very important that I continue to work with them to help them bring in new businesses and then also encourage the businesses to join the chamber.
Thank you. Joshua, trustees can serve as liaisons to various community groups. Do you think this is an important role? Why? Do you have experience reaching out to and working with local community organizations?
Sure. If I had 2 words to describe the board under the leadership of Mayor Andino, that would be transparency and accessibility. And having a direct connection to the liaisons to these various groups creates transparency and accessibility to the community. I am fortunate enough to serve as the liaison for our veterans, for our Historical Preservation Commission, and for our beautification committee, which has been really eye-opening to kind of see these different opportunities throughout our community. But it has also created a gateway for those folks to have their voices heard by the board.
Thank you very much. We'll start on the next one with Joshua. Please share any revenue-generating ideas you might have.
Great, thanks. So revenue generating ideas. One of the things that the village has done very well over the last 2 years is diversify the revenue streams. And whether that is through, having to pay an extra quarter at the meters, or encouraging filming to come into town, or, being very business friendly. I think we've opened 11 or 12 new businesses over the past 2 years, and that's post-pandemic. These are ways that we're bringing revenue to the village.
Thank you. Daryl, please share any revenue-generating ideas you might have.
Similar to what Trustee Gassion just said, the filming is very important. We need to keep the village attractive to the filming. Like Mayor Andino had said earlier, we've raised over $200,000 in the filming alone. Securing the block grants is a major way that we've been able to get funding. And then working with the county, state, and federal officials. I don't know why our opponents seem to think that this is something that we shouldn't be doing. We don't have time to play politics with who's in what group. We have a great relationship with those officials, and we've been able to bring in millions of dollars for this village, and that is saving the taxpayers money.
Okay. And final question for the evening. If you could change one thing about Tuckahoe, what would it be? And we'll start with Daryl, please.
So it sounds like an interesting question, but to be honest with you, I don't really see any one thing that needs to be changed about Tuckahoe. It is an awesome, awesome place to live. That is why, after moving 3 times, I am back in Tuckahoe. I love this village. I was born and raised here. The direction that this particular board is going in is the right direction, and I know we are on the right path. And we've had many, many residents, even some from the other party, confirm that. Tell us that you guys are doing an awesome job. And I think even in the last election, the polls showed that. So I think we're on the right path. We need to continue the path that we're on, and I believe it's the right thing to do.
Thank you. Joshua, if you could change one thing about Tuckahoe, what would it be?
So I took some notes during the mayor's conversation, and the mayor's opponent said, and I quote, "I wouldn't change anything." That came from the mayor's opponent, and I agree. There are some there are some subtle differences, that we can work on, that we've continued to work on, and you see it as you drive throughout the village. You see the roads getting paved, you see the infrastructure improving, and these are things that we're going to continue to work on as a board.
Thank you very much. And now I will not forget closing statements from each of you. And we'll begin with Joshua, please.
Thank you. Thank you again for bringing this to Tuckahoe. We appreciate it. In the words of the great philosopher Bill Parcells, you are what your record says you are, and I will stand by our record any day. The record of paving streets, the record of inclusivity, the record of our bond rating. I will stand by our record any day. Our opponents decide to crawl out from, whatever rock they were under or whatever bar stool they could be dragged off of every 2 years, and they come out and criticize what we're doing. But what they don't do is offer any solutions. Teddy Roosevelt, and this is an actual kind of paraphrase, said that those who point out problems without offering solutions are cowardly complainers. And I couldn't agree more. Oh, and vote for us on the bipartisan line, row F.
Okay, and closing statement from Daryl, please.
Okay. Running for trustee is important to me because I believe in finishing what I started. This present board, under the leadership of Mayor Andino, and in my first term, has an extensive list of achievements, unlike my opponents, who, when they were in the majority on the board, didn't have anything to show of what they'd done while they were in office. And this is just a list of a few things. You've heard them before, you're going to hear them again. Earning the S&P Global Rating upgrade to AA+, which is the highest for the village. Obviously, paving more than 30% of our streets. securing more than $2 million in grants, improving our libraries, parks, community centers, and sidewalks, sign new contracts protecting the health care and pensions of the Tuckahoe Police Department and the village employees, and tackling the infrastructure projects including sewer upgrades, traffic light upgrades, and secured federal funding so we can replace the Main Street light right here at Main and Columbus. And lastly, well, I already talked about battling the bronchitis, but it is important you show up. And this is not new. This has been going on for years. Every single year when we're running for office, we ask them over and over again to come to a forum, come to a debate, and they have declined every single year. So that shows up.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you to our candidates and to our audience and to our timekeeper and our AV team member. A reminder that, speaking of AV, that this forum has been recorded and will be available to you on your sponsoring league's website until Election Day, which is November 7th. I also want to remind you of the unique and important role played by the League of Women Voters here in the community and across the country. The League works to register voters, educate them on issues of the day, and to protect their voting rights. Our local league is made up of volunteers who devote their time and energy. Your participation and assistance are always welcome. And finally, early voting takes place from this Saturday, October 28th, through Sunday, November 5th. Early voting polling places can be found on the Westchester Board of Elections website, as well as on the postcards that are somewhere here in the room. On election day, which is November 7th, you can vote only at your assigned polling location. To confirm your location, you can visit vote411.org or the New York State Board of Elections website to use their voter lookup service. Note that democracy is not a spectator sport, so please get out there and vote. Thank you and have a terrific evening.